dragged in chains, laughed at by her own. The alien city of Varel burned golden under two suns. It was a city of royalty, power, and pride, where nobles wore silver robes and walked like gods. But today, something unusual was happening. A crowd had gathered in the grand square. And in the middle of it, a young alien woman was being dragged through the dust. Her name was Serena. Once a noble princess of the Virelan Empire. Now, nothing more than a traitor to them. Her arms were bound in glowing chains, her purple skin, bruised and bleeding, her long white hair tangled with dirt. The guards who pulled her wore black armor and cruel smiles. The nobles around her watched and laughed. She thought she could rule, one jeered. She should be grateful we didn't execute her, another mocked. Serena didn't reply. Her head stayed low. Her legs were weak, stumbling every few steps. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just held on to the last piece of her pride. Silence. Hidden in the crowd was a human. Reed, a former Earth soldier, now a traitor visiting alien lands. He wasn't rich. He wasn't royal. He had no right to speak in a Virelan court. But his eyes were sharp, and his heart had not turned cold like the rest. He stood at the edge of the crowd watching carefully. At first he didn't move. He just observed, trying to understand. Why was she being treated this way? What had she done to deserve this? The announcer stepped forward, a tall alien male with golden skin and proud eyes. He raised his voice. Let this be a lesson to all who defy the High Council. Serena, daughter of traitors, tried to take power for herself. She is stripped of all titles, all rights. Let her live as a beggar, or die in the dust. The guards threw her to the ground. She hit hard, coughing, her chains glowing against the dirt. The crowd laughed louder. Reed clenched his jaw. His hand moved toward the blade on his belt, but he stopped himself. No, not yet. He stepped forward, pushing past aliens who looked down on him. A few gave him strange looks. What was a human doing here? He ignored them and walked closer, until he stood only 10 feet away from the fallen Serena. What did she really do? He asked loudly. The laughter paused. Heads turned. The announcer looked down at Reed with disgust. She broke the law. That is all you need to know, human. Sometimes the law is wrong, Reed said calmly, and sometimes the people who write the law are afraid of the truth. A murmur spread through the crowd. The announcer narrowed his eyes. You dare challenge our justice? I'm just asking a question, Reed replied. He looked at Serena, her eyes barely open but watching him now, confused, curious. A noble woman near the front snapped, Go back to your dirty planet, human. This is not your business. Reed smiled faintly. You're right, it's not. But you've all had your turn to speak. I think it's time someone else had a voice. The guards stepped forward, hands on their weapons. Reed didn't flinch. He didn't reach for his weapon. He simply bent down and offered his hand to Serena. For a moment, everything went still. The crowd watched. The guards hesitated. Even the announcer said nothing. Serena looked at his hand, then at his face. She had no reason to trust him. No reason to believe he was any different from the others. But something in his eyes, steady, calm, real, made her fingers twitch. She reached up and took his hand. Gasps echoed across the square. The chains hissed softly as Reed pulled her up. She swayed on her feet, dizzy, broken, but she stood. Reed put his arm around her shoulder and looked back at the crowd. She stands again, he said quietly. Not because of you, but in spite of you. Then he walked with her, past the shocked nobles, past the silent guards. No one stopped them. No one dared. And behind them, the crowd whispered, not laughing anymore. He spoke when everyone stayed silent. The path away from the Virelan square was long, lined with glowing trees and cold stares. Reed walked slowly, his arm steady around Serena's back, her weight leaning into him. Every step left a trail of blood and dust behind them. Every glance from the nobles around them was heavy with hate. But no one stopped them. Not yet. Once they were far from the crowd, past the polished palaces and silver towers, Reed led her into an old ruin just outside the city. A forgotten stone shelter, cracked and hidden by vines. It wasn't much, but it was quiet. Safe. For now. He gently lowered her onto a cloth-covered bench made from salvaged parts. Her knees buckled, and she winced in pain. Her wrists were still bound in energy cuffs, glowing dimly like they were alive. Reed didn't speak yet. He grabbed a flask from his pack and knelt beside her, opening it. "Water?" he offered softly. She stared at him, unsure. Her lips were dry, eyes sunken from exhaustion. Finally, she nodded. She drank. A long silence followed. The kind of silence that comes when both people carry too much pain and don't know where to begin. Then Serena broke it. Her voice was hoarse. "Why did you stop them?" Reed tilted his head. "Because no one else did." "That doesn't answer the question," she whispered. Reed stood and paced the room. "When I was a soldier on Earth, I saw things. Brutal things. People left behind, civilians punished for politics. I swore I wouldn't watch it happen again, not if I had the power to change it." "You don't even know me," she said. "No," he admitted. "But I know cruelty when I see it, and I know the look of someone who's been betrayed." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You think I was betrayed?" "I saw how they treated you. That wasn't justice. That was fear." She looked away. "They fear what I know." Reed's interest sharpened. "What do you know?" Before she could answer, a sudden buzzing sound filled the room. Reed spun around, drawing his blade. A small drone hovered outside the window, red light blinking. "Stay. Down," he ordered. With one clean motion, he slashed the drone from the air. Sparks flew. It fell with a crunching hiss. Reed turned back. "They're already watching us." Serena didn't flinch. She looked him in the eye. "Then you've made yourself a target. For me." "I've been a target before," he replied. "I'm still standing." She gave a tired smile. "Human, you're insane." He shrugged. "Maybe, but now you're not alone." She leaned back, eyes half closed. "I never thought a human would be the one to care." Outside, thunder cracked low in the alien sky. Storm clouds began to gather, as if the planet itself could sense that something was shifting. Inside the shelter, Reed pulled a small tool from his pouch and knelt beside her hands. "I'm going to get those cuffs off," he said. "They've hurt you enough." She stared at him, unsure again. "These are Varellan cuffs, high security. You'll trigger the shock." "Maybe," Reed said, grinning. "Or maybe I know a few tricks." With a slow and steady hand, he began to disable the locks. Tiny sparks danced between the glowing lines. Serena flinched but didn't stop him. "You're not like the others," she said. "No," Reed said. "I'm not." Click. The first cuff fell. She gasped softly, rubbing her wrist. A faint burn remained where it had been. "You could have walked away," she said. Reed started working on the second cuff. "Yeah, I could have. But you didn't." He paused, looked up at her, because when one voice speaks in a room full of silence, sometimes it's the only thing that keeps the world from going mad. Click. The second cuff dropped. For the first time in days, Serena was truly free. She stared at her hands, almost like she didn't believe it. Then she looked up at him. "Reed, if I told you the truth, what they really fear, would you still help me?" "I didn't help you because you're innocent," he said. "I helped you because you were alone. But now, if there's truth that needs to come out, I'll stand with you." She gave him a long, searching look, then nodded. Outside, the storm rumbled louder. Something was coming, and this time the silence would not win. From mud to firelight, night fell quickly on the outskirts of Varel. The city lights glowed in the distance, but where Reed and Serena stayed, there was only darkness, wind, and the smell of old stone and dust. Rain tapped lightly on the broken roof of the stone shelter. Inside, a small fire flickered, built carefully with fuel cells and scraps from Reed's pack. It gave the space a warm glow, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Serena sat close to the fire, a blanket over her shoulders. The burns on her wrists were red and fresh, but she didn't complain. She held her hands out toward the flames, not just for warmth, but maybe to feel something. Anything. Reed sat a few steps away, silent, cleaning his weapon. Not because he needed to, because it gave him something to do while he waited. Serena finally broke the quiet. Do humans always risk their lives for strangers? Reed didn't look up. Only the stupid ones. A small smile tugged at her lips. Then thank you for being stupid, he chuckled. You're welcome. For a few moments they just listened to the fire crackle. It wasn't peace, not exactly, but it was the closest either of them had felt to it in days. Then Serena whispered, "They killed my brother." Reed looked up. Serena's eyes were locked on the flames. That's the truth they fear. Not that I'm unfit to rule, not that I was too young or too bold, but because I saw who did it, and I know why. Reed's jaw tightened. Who? The High Council, she said. They wanted full control. My family still believed in the old code, the law of shared power, but the nobles wanted domination. They poisoned my father, staged an attack on our ship, and when my brother survived, they dragged him into the council hall and executed him, called it justice. Reed's hand closed slowly around the hilt of his blade. And you? I screamed the truth in front of them. I thought they would listen. She laughed bitterly. They laughed back, said I was delusional, that I was mourning, that I was unstable. Reed shook his head. They silenced you. They tried. She looked at him now, eyes sharper. But now I have a second chance. And I don't care if I'm hunted. If I have to crawl through the mud, I'll expose them, even if it kills me. Reed didn't smile this time, he just nodded. Then we start tomorrow. Serena blinked. You mean, you'll help? I'm already in this, Reed said. Might as well see it through. A strange silence settled between them, not awkward, but charged, as if something unspoken had passed from one soul to another. Then Serena did something Reed didn't expect. She moved closer, not with fear, not with weakness, but with trust. She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. For the first time since her world collapsed, she allowed herself to rest. Reed stiffened at first, surprised. Then he relaxed. He didn't speak, didn't move. He just let her stay there, her breath soft and steady beside him. Outside, the storm finally faded. The fire crackled on, and in that quiet shelter beyond the city of nobles and liars, two beings from different worlds shared something rare and real. Hope. A broken past and a buried truth. By morning, the skies over Varel turned pale blue, but the city remained tense. The news of Serena's escape was already spreading like wildfire. Inside the old shelter, the fire had gone cold, but something new was burning now. Purpose. Reed opened a small hollow map on the ground. The council's chamber is here, he said, pointing to a cluster of glowing dots. Guards rotate every 4 hours. No one goes in without a noble ID. Serena nodded. Her energy was returning, slowly. She had washed her face, tied back her silver-white hair, and now wore a black cloak Reed had packed for emergencies. She looked different, less like a broken royal and more like a storm waiting to rise. But Reed saw the shadow still lingering in her eyes. You're quiet, he said. Serena didn't look at him. Her voice came low. I haven't told you everything. Reed raised an eyebrow. I figured. She turned to face him now. There's something worse than what they did to my brother. Something buried. Forgotten. And if we don't stop them soon, it'll destroy more than just me. Reed leaned forward, listening. Serena took a breath, steadying herself. When I was a child, before the betrayal, my father showed me a sealed vault beneath the old palace, a forbidden room, hidden even from the council. It contained something ancient, a relic of our ancestors. He called it the Oath Core. Reed frowned. What's that? A living archive, she said. Built thousands of cycles ago by the first rulers of Varel. It records every royal bloodline, every law ever, made every betrayal, every secret oath. It has proof of what the council has done. Reed's eyes widened. So why haven't you used it? Because they erased its existence from public records, and the vault was locked by blood access. Only someone of royal blood could open it. You, Reed said. Yes, she nodded. But after they stripped my title, they claimed I had no right to it anymore, and anyone who tried to help me reach it vanished. Reed stood and began pacing. So this Oath Core, if we get it, can bring the whole council down? Serena nodded. And maybe more. It could shatter the entire noble order. A pause. Then she looked up at him. You still want to help me now? Reed didn't blink. I didn't risk my life to fix your past. I'm here to help you rewrite the future. For the first time, a real smile touched her lips. But it didn't last long, because at that moment, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Reed's hand went to his weapon instantly. Did you feel that? Serena stood up, her senses alert. That's not natural. The trembling grew louder. A sound like deep humming, mechanical and alive, echoed through the walls. Then they heard it, a voice, low and metallic, speaking in Virelan dialect. A message, repeated. Serena Virel. You are ordered to surrender. You are declared a threat to galactic stability. The human with you is considered a war associate. Surrender peacefully or face extermination. Reed cursed under his breath. They're using judicator drones, military-grade hunters. Serena's eyes narrowed. They're afraid. Reed grinned darkly. Good. He grabbed his pack and tossed Serena a small energy pistol. You know how to use one of these? She caught it easily. Better than most humans. Reed stepped beside her, both of them now facing the door. The sound of engines grew louder. Dust fell from the ceiling as something massive landed just outside the shelter. Serena looked at him. If we fall today, she said, let it be fighting for truth. Reed gave a half smile. If we fall loud enough to wake the dead. The door exploded inward, metal claws, red eyes, hovering. Drones scanned the room. But Serena didn't run this time. She stood tall. Her past was broken, but her truth, still alive. Together, they walked toward the enemy. Smoke filled the ruined shelter. Judicator drones swarmed through the broken door, scanning with red beams. Weapons locked. Their metallic voices barked threats. Serena and Reed didn't wait. They ran. Out the back of the shelter, down the rocky slope behind the city ruins. Energy blasts shattered stone behind them. The chase was on. Reed led the way, using every instinct from his days as a soldier. Serena followed closely, cloak flowing behind her like a shadow. Her legs burned, her chest ached, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. This time she wasn't running away from something. She was running toward it. They ducked into an abandoned transport tunnel. Cold, dark, the smell of rust and damp air. The drone sounds faded above them, confused. Reed pulled a glow stick from his belt and lit it. The blue light bathed the tunnel in a ghostly glow. They walked in silence for a moment. Their breathing was heavy but steady. Serena finally spoke. You're a good runner for a human. Reed glanced back, smirking. You're not bad for royalty. They both laughed softly. Even in the middle of danger, there was something strange between them now, like fire under ice. They kept walking until they reached a sealed service door. Serena placed her hand on the scanner. A sharp pain pulsed through her palm. Denied. She frowned. They've removed my biometrics from the city's network. Reed stepped forward. Step aside. He reached into his bag and pulled out a micro-hacking device. a blinking little sphere covered in wires. "Where did you get that?" she asked, surprised. "I may have played cards with a few shady alien engineers last month," he said with a wink. He attached the sphere to the panel. It sparked once, twice. Click. The door slid open. Beyond it was something she hadn't seen in years. The old transit hub, buried beneath the city, forgotten by most, but not by her. She stepped in and froze. Memories hit like lightning, her. Brothers sneaking down here as children, running through the glass tunnels, laughing, planning futures they'd never live. "Are you all right?" Reed asked softly. She nodded slowly. "This place used to feel like home." He looked at her gently. "Then it still is." They moved through the hub, past shattered glass and cracked light panels. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. Finally, they reached the ancient elevator that led beneath the palace, where the oath core was sealed. Serena placed her hand on the final scanner. This time, it worked. A sharp tone rang out, and the doors slid open. The elevator was narrow, just big enough for two. As they stepped inside, the doors closed behind them. The platform began to descend. Reed leaned against the wall. "You sure we're ready for what's down there?" "No," she said, "but I'd rather die knowing I tried than live like a ghost in chains." He looked at her. The dim light flickered. For a moment, neither of them saw a human and an alien, just two broken people carrying too much alone for too long. "Serena," Reed said quietly, "back there, when we were under fire, you didn't hesitate. You stood beside me like we've been through a dozen battles." She smiled faintly. "Maybe in another life we had silence, the kind that said too much." Then she whispered, "If we survive this, I want to see Earth, the oceans, the sky, your world." Reed's throat tightened. "You'll see it," he promised. The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a silent, circular chamber. In the center stood a tall crystal obelisk glowing faintly blue, the oath core. Serena stepped forward slowly, reverently, but behind them, footsteps, metallic, cold, fast. Reed turned, weapon drawn. A figure entered, clad in gold and black armor. A council enforcer, a noble general. His voice echoed in the chamber. "You should have stayed broken, Serena." Serena raised her chin. "You should have finished the job." The general smiled. "I'm here to fix that mistake." Reed stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You'll have to go through both of us." The general raised his blade. So be it. The fight was about to begin, not just for truth or power, but for everything they both stood for, and for the first time. Serena didn't feel like a fallen princess. She felt like a warrior. The return of the unworthy princess. The silence before the fight was thick, like the air knew what was about to happen. Reed gripped his blade tightly, his eyes fixed, on the armored noble before them. Serena stood beside him, bare-handed but unshaken. The oath core glowed behind her, humming with ancient power. The noble general's voice cut through the stillness. "You think standing with a human makes you strong, Serena? You were born to obey, not lead." Serena's lips curled into a cold smile. "I was born to change everything you fear." Then it began. The general lunged, blade flashing silver in the dim blue light. Reed met him mid-charge, blocking the strike with a loud clash. Sparks flew. The force sent both men sliding back. Serena didn't wait. She spun behind the noble and grabbed a fallen metal rod. As he turned to attack Reed again, she struck, hard, across the back of his leg. He stumbled. Reed took the opening, slashing, across the noble's chest plate. The armor cracked, but the general didn't fall. Instead, he roared and lifted both hands. From the gauntlets on his wrists, two thin whips of energy shot out, snapping toward them. Reed was hit in the shoulder. Electric. Fire tore through his nerves. He dropped to one knee. Serena screamed and rushed forward. The whip turned toward her, but she jumped, vaulting off a broken pillar and landing behind him. This time, she didn't swing. She grabbed one of the whips. The electricity coursed through her, but she didn't let go. The noble turned, stunned. "You shouldn't have come back," he hissed. "And yet, here I am," she whispered through clenched teeth. She yanked the whip toward her, pulling him off balance. Reed, recovering, tackled him from the side. They fought like one soul in two bodies, Serena dodging blows with sharp grace, Reed countering every attack with brute strength and precise skill. It wasn't clean, it wasn't perfect, but it was enough. With one final strike, Serena ripped the whip from the noble's wrist and stabbed it through his own chest plate. Electricity exploded from within him. His body spasmed, then went limp. He collapsed to the floor, dead. The chamber was silent again. Reed breathed hard, leaning against the pillar. Blood stained his sleeve, but he smiled. Not bad for a team. Serena knelt beside the oath core. She placed both hands on its surface. It began to glow brighter, reacting to her presence. Then it spoke. Identity confirmed. Royal blood detected. Memory archive unlocked. A beam of light rose from the crystal, spreading across the ceiling. Images formed. Holograms of past rulers, secrets whispered behind palace doors, oaths spoken in ancient tongues. And then, the betrayal. A clear recording. The council leaders, years ago, in secret, discussing the murder of Serena's father and brother, signing the death orders, laughing as they planned to frame it all. Proof. Undeniable. Serena looked at Reed. "With this, I can bring them down. I can show every city, every system in the Alliance. They'll have no place to hide." Reed nodded. "Then it's time to return." Serena stood, not as a fugitive, not as a traitor, as a princess reborn. 3 days later, in the grand hall of Varel, the council sat smugly on their thrones. Rumors of Serena's survival had reached them, but they laughed them off. "She's broken. She'll never dare show her face." Then the doors opened, and she walked in, alone, but not afraid. She wore a black cloak and a crown of her own making, twisted from scrap metal and the wire of her old chains. Her face was calm. Her steps were strong. The crowd gasped. The council stood. "What is the meaning of this? You have no right." She raised her hand, and the oath core projection lit the chamber. The room fell silent. They watched their own crimes play on loop. Gasps, cries. One noble fainted. Reed stood behind the pillar watching. He didn't need to be in the light. His place was by her side, but never in front of her victory. When it ended, Serena looked around the chamber. "You called me unworthy. You called me weak. But I stood when no one else did. I spoke when everyone stayed silent. And now, your time is over." The crowd erupted, not with anger, with cheers. Serena didn't smile, not yet. She turned and walked away toward Reed. "You did it?" he said. "No," she replied. "We did." She stood because he believed. The skies above Varel turned golden again, but this time not from pride or power, from peace. For the first time in generations, the High Council chamber was empty. Its thrones were cold, and its walls echoed with silence instead of control. The nobles had fled or surrendered after the truth was shown. Their ancient web of lies had collapsed in a single day, because one alien woman stood up, and one human believed she could. Serena stood on the palace balcony, overlooking the capital. She wore no crown, no robe, just a simple black tunic, the wind brushing her silver hair behind her. Below her, the people cheered, but her eyes weren't on the crowd. They were on the man, walking away. Reed. Down the marble steps, past the broken gates, with nothing in his hands except his old bag and a quiet look in his eyes. She followed him. "Leaving already?" she called out. He stopped but didn't turn. "You've got a galaxy to lead. You don't need me sticking around." She stepped closer. I don't need you, Reed. He nodded slowly, trying to hide the sting. Yeah, I figured. Then she added, soft but clear, I want you. That made him turn. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Two people who had walked through war, betrayal, and fire, only to find something no one expected. Home. In each other. You could stay, she said. Not as a hero, not as a soldier, just as you. Reed smiled. And do what? Guard doors while you sit on a throne? She shook her head. There's no throne. Not anymore. I'm not rebuilding their empire. I'm starting something new. A council of voices. One where truth leads. Not fear. He stepped closer now. That sounds dangerous. She grinned. Then stay close. They stood there inches apart, but no kiss came. No dramatic music. No promises written in stars. Just two tired souls who knew they'd already given each other everything that mattered. Belief, too. Months later, on the outskirts of the rebuilt city, where flowers grew through cracks in the old stone, children ran through fields. Laughing. Free. Serena sat on a bench under a glowing tree watching them. A young alien girl skipped past, wearing a pendant shaped like the Oath Core, now a symbol of freedom. Reed walked up behind her holding 2 mugs of spiced tea. You're late, she teased. I got distracted, he said, handing her the mug. Some local farmer wanted help rebuilding his fence, said he heard I used to be a soldier. You'll never stop helping people, will you? He shrugged. Bad habit. They sat in peace for a while. The past was still there, in their scars and the dreams that came at night. But it didn't own them anymore. It had shaped them, but it didn't define them. Serena looked toward the horizon. Do you think the galaxy will ever stop repeating itself? Reed leaned back, thoughtful. I don't know, but I think, as long as one person chooses to stand when everyone else stays silent, there's a chance. She looked at him. You were that one person? No, he said. You were. She smiled quietly. Only because you believed I could be. The wind rustled the leaves above them, and somewhere far beyond, in the stars, a new story began. Not of a fallen princess or a broken soldier, but of 2 unlikely souls who changed everything, together.